We are live. I will share the stream to the Facebook group and the Discord, and we will truly start after that. So I will also take a look to the music. Maybe there's something wrong because apparently it doesn't. Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. Now it should be fine. Can you speak to see if it's working?
Testing, testing.
Perfect. So we got a guest. Some of you may have recognized the voice. You can now present yourself.
Hey everyone, it's kantbei. I'm a fairly high level Global League Fog player here to share this opening with you guys on this new Global League map, Don't Mess Up My Tempo.
That's very good, and I think I know what kind of opening you did, even if I didn't really go over the replay. I think I have an idea, and I think I stole it without knowing it. But I'm also guessing it will be a bit different since I'm not you. But I think we will have some similar stuff. Do you have mouse control right now?
Yes I do.
Perfect. So, let's speak about the CEOs. Why did you pick Sammy?
So basically in tier 3, I have to spoil it a bit, right? The opening revolves around getting a really strong threat on the HQ around turn 11 to 12 with a really big army. Sammy is very uniquely positioned as one of the few COs that benefits really well from this kind of game state because, as you all know, her infantry capture really fast, victory march is an instant capture, she likes artillery, she likes mechs, she likes having a diverse army composition, right? So all of these things play into her strengths, and if she can get that threat off, it's really a lot of pressure to face against at tier 3. It's possible to defend this, of course, but it's not trivial. And basically, like if you're not a high-rated player, there's a very good chance like you won't know how to react to this at all when you first see it. So I know this because this actually, like the first time I saw this was when Zeronix, one of the best Advanced Wars players ever, actually did this against me in my first game against him. So that's who I got this opening from.
Well, that's kind of good. And now, why did you chose Don't Mess Up My Tempo? I actually like the map, but I am wondering what are the reasons.
Couple of reasons. So it's new to the Global League rotation again. It was in the league before, but like that was a few months ago, so people might not remember, or newer players would probably have never seen it. It looks like a fairly safe HQ map because of the B-boat, but actually, as we'll see in the game later on, it's actually not that safe, and the B-boat is completely necessary because the HQ is actually very weak on this map. Other than that, it's a typical, 3 base, 1 airport map. There's no clear strong side, weak side, really. There's like maybe some slight strong side for Master Kanbei or the Lash player here on the top side, top right side. And for me, it would be like the bottom left. So basically towards your HQ is your weak side. But it's not that pronounced, right? So it's got that very classical fog, what I call wedge style maps going for it, but at the same time it has a lot of...
You cut off at the moment you say it does allow. You cut off.
Sorry? What was the last thing you heard?
The last thing I heard was as this allow.
Yeah, so the map allows for like a really fast HQ threat. Is that what I said?
You spoke about wage side and as this allow. That was like the sentence, the last sentence we got.
I can't remember the last thing I said. But yeah, so there are like a lot of mountains. This allows for a lot of free vision, but at the same time recons are pretty good because of like the road system, not necessarily to harass. I don't think recons can actually harass in this map. It's just too small. Everything's too scary because it feels like everything is defended by a tank early on. But what makes recons really good is that they can go to one corner of the map, force a tank to respond, and then rapidly use its 8 movement along the roads to shift away from that front and get back into like a different area of the map where fighting might be happening. That helps you win infantry fights, like recon versus infantry will win versus infantry, right? While preserving the HP of your infantry. So yeah, there are a lot of like interesting things about this map.
That's cool. You are in charge, just like before. So we go at your pacing, and I think we will do a few similar things in the first few turns. We will see.
Yeah, it will probably be like a fairly normal opening here for both of us. Replay is bugging out a little, so we have to do this manually, I believe.
Exactly. I think that's the thing again. Maybe refresh?
Refresh here. What's this? Okay, it's good.
Oh,
So
I
you
thought I
didn't
was going
build
for
the
the
mech?
building. Oh, I think I
Yeah.
know why I went for the base. You're Sammy, and I wanted a better unit count.
Yeah. Going for the building is, I think going for the base is technically more correct anyway. Um, there is like an opening here where you base skip, like you skip this for 1 extra day and you take this first.
Yeah,
But
that's what I do usually.
yeah, it's Zeronix has done that before, but it's not convincing that it's really strong like it's in Dragons in the Dark where there's like that crazy Neo tank opening. Here it just isn't that good because this base also is in charge of like certain captures like this port. Um, and eventually like this city also gets delayed if you do that because usually like the infantry here wants to chain to this one once it finishes this rather than going here. So there's some arguments for it not being as strong, although it is certainly viable if you have a plan for that like earlier plus 1k income.
Yeah.
Um, I do begin the capture here, although I will end up like going for the base and break this capture chain. Usually like in my opinion it's best to like do moves where you maximize your options and flexibility, right? So
Yeah.
from this position here I can still go for the base anytime I want, but if I decide like, you know, in turn 3 like, oh, I want to do this capture and do some weird timing, then I can still do that if I want, right? So like I delay the point of having to choose until I absolutely have to. Okay, this is interesting. So a couple of things. First, I think it's almost always better for this second infantry to capture towards the side.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because this will chain into this, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this doesn't chain. So technically speaking, this is 1k more income, I believe, right?
Yeah.
In the opening for
It's
you.
much better. Yeah.
There are like certain maps where, you know, going for a suboptimal economic capture is okay because that lets you get a timing on a contested city that is very hard to get like in the mid game, right? So there are certain maps where that happens. In this map, I don't think there's really that many things to contest early on without like a big army.
Okay.
Then I do exactly that. I break the capture, go for the airport next, get some more infantry, all very standard stuff. Okay, you build a quite early recon, so this is a day 3 recon, I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
Usually I don't do that, and that was a test because I'm like, you're better than me. I've seen a lot of better player than me using opening recon, so let's try that strat. What are your thoughts on that?
recon here can be fine for sure. I think it is a bit too early though. So, like I said earlier, it's hard for the recon to find early game harassment value.
Yeah.
Because so on the top side, like if you're playing the map somewhat correctly, usually you will not go past this area basically. Um, or if you're playing as me, right, from my perspective, I won't go past this area. Sometimes I'll just concede this city entirely and play from here, right?
Yeah.
And from here is one tank turn away from my closest base. So it's hard for the recon to find value there. Also, like the recon doesn't really want to charge in blindly, right? Like there's generally gonna be very little way for you to know if I have a tank or not defending because of how close it is to the base. So it can't get value that way. The other way recons can get value is by getting information. But I think like there's not that much information to really gather this early on from a day 3 recon, because a day 3 recon is usually built because you want to like do some kind of harassment or delaying the capture phase somehow. But yeah, so the only information this recon can see by virtue of being built here, right, is the fact that when these things get captured. But unless I went for like an APC opening on this side of the map, and honestly I don't think anyone should do that, that's terrible. um, then basically you'll see like, oh, he went a normal capture phase, then what, right? Like that doesn't really tell, like I can tell you most players will be doing that without ever having to build a recon, so it becomes pointless information, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I can say like every player will do that, because if they don't do that, then you're just strictly better and it doesn't matter what they did, right? So it's a kind of information where it doesn't matter, like they either do the optimal thing or they put themselves in a losing position and it doesn't matter, right? So like there's really no gimmick there. Another idea is to like build a recon from this side of the map and move here. So this might be more viable, especially for contesting some of these cities here, especially like if they go transport opening, which I do in this map. The problem is for a day 3 recon, that delays all your captures here as well, and like you really need infantry as well against Sammy. Like you'll need a recon infantry pair to deny captures. Otherwise, like you kill the infantry but she gets the capture, it's probably still like okay, because like you also hurt your capture phase by building an early recon from this, right? So
Okay.
it's not completely free. Like maybe you go even, but it's not like strictly. If you don't get any value, then it's strictly worse for you, right? So there's a lot of things going on there. The other thing is like the nice road system from here. Once you get here, like you're fine, right?
Okay.
But from to get to like that area, it's like it's not so fast anyway. So there might be a tank already in response if they didn't go a risky, I think. Generally I don't go for recons here.
Okay. I've got another question for you. You said ABC is kind of bad. Do you think in this map transport are valuable or not really?
When I said APC is bad, I mean APC is bad when you're playing towards your HQ side, right? If you ever do a transport opening, usually you want it to be on your stronger side. Because number one, that's where most infantry are. Number two, long.
You got off.
If I
You
open APC here, I get here and then your and I lose all of it. What does it matter, right? The APC did not actually
uh,
hold all those cities for a long time,
you
right?
did cut off
So,
after number 2.
eh, um, number two, uh,
I don't know what's going on, but you cut off again. You did cut off again. I don't know why. Is it better now?
Um, hopefully. Can you hear me?
Number two, this doesn't want to work. Number two, blacked out twice.
The world isn't ready for number two. No, I was saying, if you do a transport opening, usually you want to do it on your strong side rather than your weak side. So here, the strong side weak side dynamic does matter for the transport opening. If I play an APC towards my HQ, so here on the top right area, and I get to like maybe here if I'm lucky, like 2 turns later or like 3 turns later, your army comes in, pushes me back because there's no way I hold it, right? Like my bases are too far away. You take all these cities back, and then the APC didn't get any economic value really, because like it took some cities, but then it lost them immediately. If you do it on your strong side, you take these cities really early, and then it's hard for your opponent to contest them really, right? Because like the 2 bases and the airport feed into this really nicely. Even this 3rd base really feeds into this area nicely. So I take all these cities early on, and then I can hold them for a really long time, right? Which means the APC gets more economic value. So generally in most maps, I would say there is, if you do a transport opening, it commits you to like your strong side in the opening, and like you can't really deviate from that without suffering potentially a lot of damage, right? There are some maps where this isn't strictly true. Stalingrad is kind of weird because it's so big. APC is actually viable from all 3 bases, and there are different openings for it, but I think it's the only map that does that.
That's
Oh, also
very good
step
to
into
know about
fog.
Stalingrad. I
Um,
like Stalingrad a lot.
Yeah, First Step into Fog is another map in the pool where the transport opening is actually on your weak side rather than your strong side. But there's a weird timing to it that we can get to at a different time. But yeah, that's essentially like the rough theory behind transport openings. Okay, so I do build an APC here. And there's a reason why like I went for this airport second rather than first. So if you go for the airport first, like what you did, this infantry will not be timed perfectly so that with this APC build, right? This infantry will finish capturing a turn earlier, and then it wants to move forward, so like the APC doesn't maximize its boost, right? Whereas if you go for this capture here first, that means you have 2 forward infantry compared to like 1, because of just like how the turn order works.
This is very good to know. I will know for next time. I actually like that APC opening you did there. I'll steal it from you in the future.
Feel free to. It's really really good. I like it. Slight mistake here. This
Mountain instead
infantry
of
is
road.
almost, yeah, it should almost always be on the mountain just for more vision. In case like you did do a recon shenanigan, like it's potentially can spot it, or you do something really really weird. But otherwise this is fine. Like also the other thing is like it doesn't matter if I prevent this capture or not. Like there's no way you can prevent it, right? Like even if you magically get a recon there in time, and hit it, which is really hard because you don't have vision, right? But
And
even
you
if
are
you did,
Sammy.
it's stunning. Yeah, so it doesn't matter, right? The other thing is like from here, it's much easier for you to block this capture, right? If you park our recon here, you can block it. If it's on this mountain, the only way to block it is to sit on the city, which you want to do anyway, but it's just like a slight, like there's more options to you, right? I don't know like what scenario you'd want to sit on the road instead, but it's just always like better maximize your options anyway. So like for me, this gives me vision. This allows me to capture this even if you block from here or here. Like I have 2 pathways to it. So there's a lot of like things which makes this superior. And I probably build like 3 more inf here. Oh, I build 2 inf and a recon. Hmm. I think like this recon should have been way more forward. Since it's like the earliest possible recon anyway, and you can be fairly sure like there is no tank out yet. Even if there is a tank, it's newly built, right? So like it's at its base, so you can move this as far forward as you want, right? You don't have to be too scared yet. So I would move it to the city, because number 1, you're last, you want to be on the city. Two, it gives you a lot of vision here in the center area, which is probably like most interesting for you anyway, and it lets you shift to this front of this part of the map really fast as well if you want to do that later on. Hiding in the forest doesn't really matter this early on. Like, again, there's no way I have a tank out. Even if I have a tank out and get a hit, you know you're winning, because like that means I sacked my eco super hard, so it's super trash, right? Yeah, like there's just no reason for you to be scared at this point in the game. Like, if you know your tank timings, day 5 is the fastest tank timing without base skip, and like any competent player will be doing that probably, unless they do some weird non-meta opening, right? So this is almost always going to be safe, like 99% of the time.
That's very good to know.
Where you went T-Copter, I think the T-Copter is a mistake at this point. So the problem is, for transport to get value, or transport to be considered like worth it to have done its job in the opening phase, and this is still the opening, it needs to accelerate about 3 cities, right? The problem for this T-Copter is, number one, is a turn late. All your infantry that were in the back are already already forward, right? Unlike, say, my APC, which managed to bring 1 infantry from here to here. So it moved like 1, 2, 3. It accelerated like 3 turns worth of movement for that infantry, right? This T-Copter can't do that, because like all your infantry already moving forward, except for this one, but it's kind of dubious to go back for this infantry anyway. The other thing is, like, because all your infantry are already forward by being a turn late, this T-Copter doesn't accelerate these 2 cities anymore. It might accelerate this one and might accelerate this one, right? But it's just 2 cities rather than you could have gotten like 3 cities, 4 cities if you did what I did with an APC, right? So that's why like the T-Copter is dubious at best. You already have a recon as well, which kind of explains why you couldn't afford an APC earlier. If you commit to like this kind of early aggression thing, it doesn't make sense to like deviate from that plan and like go for like an economic thing behind it, right? You might as well just back this recon up with tanks and like try to get some kind of damage off, or try to find some forcing fight using that recon, right? So you have to, if you're gonna do a plan, you kind of need to stick to it until like it becomes unfeasible to stick to it, because like every time you shift away from a plan strategically and it cost you something to get that, to do that plan in the first place. In your case, like you had less infantry, you have less eco because of the early recon build, then deviating from that plan is tempo loss, right?
Okay.
And if you lose enough tempo, you just lose the game.
Very interesting explanation. I do like it a lot, and I will consider that in the future. I never really thought about that, and I'm like, I got the money, I like transport, let's have a transport, but based on what you said, I like your thought process, and I realized, oh, my love for transport is wrong sometimes. Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
That's
I'm
good.
just trying to remember what it is I did. Okay, so I actually like use that second infantry to like turbo boost this capture.
Okay.
Because like these 2 corner cities are basically like the 2 most contestable cities on the map. So if I get this out really fast, it means that I probably keep it for very long. Because like once I take it, it's hard for you to take it back.
Yeah.
But if I don't take it early enough, then you can potentially like sit infantry here and keep throwing infantry in to deny the capture.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to like commit tanks, right? Or I can also use like my APC to block, but it's like the APC doesn't really want to do that usually.
Yeah.
I build a second recon here, and then I build a mech. So this kind of opening 2 recons is a little bit risky. I only do this specifically because I am Sammy. So like I don't really care if you can deny. You can't really deny my captures, right? But if you harass my infantry, it's honestly okay. I'd rather have like some early vision at this stage of the game, because we're now developing where tanks might be out. I want to see where your army is playing so I can react accordingly, and I want to see like if you have enough army in this area to react to like what I'm about to do to you.
That's really good to know.
Yeah, also like what I said earlier at the start of before the game started, right? Like, if I have a recon here and it forces out the tank, it can rapidly redeploy to this area, and the tank can't necessarily follow. Like, it'll take the tank a turn slower, generally speaking. So that's why like recons are really good for front switching. Okay, this is kind of like weird. You load the forward infantry into the T-Copter, which is okay, but then you immediately go to the side, towards like this center area where it can't really accomplish anything.
Yeah.
It's better if your T-Copter went straight north, right, and like try to do something here.
Okay.
By the T-Copter going here, I'm not really sure what it can do, right? Like maybe it loads another infantry and goes for this city. Like potentially that's one play.
I had the mech in mind at that point, I think.
Okay, a mech
Yeah.
is fine, right? But
I was about to make a mech right beside the transport.
right, okay, like the mech is fine. It's just I think like the transport usually wants to get some kind of economic value first. But if you're building the transport purely for the mech play, I can see that. I'm not really sure if you want mechs against Sammy though, because like her infantry are just so much stronger. And usually like the threat isn't her tanks, right? The threat is like her artillery behind the tanks. So like you want stuff that can hit the artillery, you want stuff that can hit her mechs, you want stuff like your tanks will do fine against her tanks and just about anything else she has. The problem is like if you fall down on unit count in the fight, she might be too efficient against you. So
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Like the mech is a good idea, like if you're playing against like Andy, right, or like Kindle. Not really sure if like you're playing against Sammy, that's what you want.
You know, that's really funny. I like your response and your explanation. And in my mind, I had no seal in mind. I was like, mech are trash, but I got the transport copter, so let's have some mechs because mechs makes the transport copter better. So that was my thought process. But after what you said about Sammy, I fully agree with everything you said, and I feel really stupid. I know I'm not, but I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I
Yeah.
thought about
It feels
mech
silly.
and transport copter, but then it's Sammy. I didn't thought about Sammy having better infantry and mech, so it's crazy how much you need to think. And I do like your explanation. It's just amazing to see how different you are because you played more and you're better than me in general. You have a better understanding of the game. So that's just very good to know and learn. That's just like that.
What do I do here? Okay, I go for that capture. That's normal. Ah, okay, this is a mistake for sure. Like my APC movement is wrong. This APC should be going down this path rather than here. I'm actually not sure why I parked it here. That's just a mistake. Because like it doesn't really do anything from that position, right? Like what is that accomplishing?
It picks up the other infantry in the back.
Yeah, I think my thought process was like I'm gonna use this infantry to like load into here and then unload here so I can get the city. The problem with that is this infantry also gets to this city in the same turn, right? So like this doesn't accelerate that. The other idea is potentially load here, unload here to get this. But the problem is this infantry also gets this city in the same turn, right? And this infantry's job is actually to just capture this comm tower. So there's like it's that kind of thing that you need to think about when you're doing transport play, right? Like, okay, what does every infantry do before I make a move? So I understand like everything is coherent and everything makes sense, right? Everyone's working together. Cause like initially, like if I'm just looking at this in isolation, right? Like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. I get this city a turn earlier. Really good play. But if I don't account for this infantry being here and being able to get that in the same turn anyway, then it's just like, oh, well, okay, this APC being here is not a good idea. It actually doesn't do anything for me. It's not like, game losing, right? But with APCs and transports, you want to be like really efficient with them because your usually down one tank, right? Or like most of a tank, if you go for a transport opening, you have to make that up somehow, right? And you do that by being more efficient economically. You do that by having more forward infantry, right? Because you have the transport to boost them. You do that by having more presence, and that allows things like, mech play, artillery play. You need all those things in order to like stay in the game. Because if someone just opens like pure tank spam against you and you're not efficient with your transport, sometimes I can just straight up lose you the game because like you're one tank down in the first fight, and that will snowball into you losing more stuff, more tanks, more cities.
And the same goes
So yeah.
sometimes some people open Raycons, and because you had a misuse of the APC or because the map is not good for APC, these Raycons will just wreak havoc and ruin your capture game despite the APC. This is what happened in one of my Global League game recently. The guy had like a turn 3 Raycon in the static, and he ruined my place. And day like 10, I resigned because I was like, okay, I'm too far behind. Like I don't see anything. I don't have tanks. I don't have economy. So I just resigned, and I was kind of shocked because like the past 2 months, both rotation I don't like. The rotation we had in June, I don't like the rotation we have in July, and this affect my morale, if we can call it that way. My rating went really down. I think it was the lowest since I believe like March. I'm still in the 800s, but I used to be like comfortable in the 900s, but I just cannot like endure the new maps. Most of the new maps are trash, and I do like Don't Mess Up My Temple. It's a fun map, but now we got 3 light-based maps in that current rotation. It's so awful. What are your thoughts about light-based maps?
I think base light maps are very polarizing. So some of them are okay to play on. The problem is like too many tiers get broken on them. What I mean by broken is um, there's only basically one pick that you can do, and if you don't do it, you lose. Right? So like on base light, it's almost always one bolt. Anyone else loses instantly. It's almost always in tier 2. It's almost always max. Anyone else loses instantly. In tier 3, there's a lot more variety, but on smaller ones especially, it's gonna be like Kindle, maybe sometimes Slash. Everyone else loses. All right. In tier 4 is like the most fine in base. Like everyone's still fine. Justice gets better. Adder is still kind of fine. Jake's still kind of fine. Cole's still kind of fine. Like they're all dependent on terrain anyway. Grim is kind of fine because copters are more important, so he likes that. So like tier 4 is like the only like really unaffected tier by base light in fog. Actually even in standard, I think this is true. Tier 3 is like 50-50. Sometimes it's fine. Sometimes it's like centralized pick. Everyone is a mirror every game. It's boring. Tier 2 and Tier 1 are the biggest problems in this one. Because almost always, like what I see is every map becomes a mirror of some kind. Or someone does a weird non-meta pick and loses, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's a problem with the base light fundamentally. Which is why like it can never be, the gold standard, you could say, of maps. I think a few of them are fine. Some of them like present like interesting gameplay aspects, and like it's a nice change of pace once in a while, but too many of them I think are not healthy.
I just like one of the all the light based map. I actually like 1.5. I say an half because Apong, I think it's a fine map because we have access to port, and I like to meme with battleships and carrier, and that's funny because I still win sometime with that. I'm kind of shocked. I stopped doing it, but when the map first came out, I was able to win a few games with battleship in the center of the map.
Sorry, what map is this?
Apong.
Oh, Heifeng. Okay.
Yeah, that's funny because when the map first came out, I was winning with battleship in the center. But
That's funny.
regardless, the other map I think is fine in light base is struggling grinding. It's so sad that map was taken out. I'm like, we had it for so many months and now it's been taken out.
Yeah, struggle grinding was pretty good. Well, the reason why like it got taken out is exactly because it's been there for so long, right? So like maps which have been in the league for a long time have a higher chance of getting rotated out just for variety's sake. Doesn't always like work out well, but in general, it's to promote like more diverse set of maps, and just so like people don't get tired of like playing the same map over and over.
So they keep all the wars, like the wars with the forest and the infantry chilling there with a building to cap early in the game. That map is so awful. I don't understand why it's still around. Which one is
Um,
awful as
is
well?
this Fletcher Walker, maybe?
Yeah, this one is so awful. I don't know why it exists.
It's oh, it has some problems. I think like if both players are playing super optimally, it will stall because like artillery are so strong there. Um, but like it has less issues in my mind than a lot of the maps which got taken out recently. Um, Struggle grinding is not part of that list. Like it got taken out because it's been there a long time. But a lot of the maps, because like they had to do an emergency mid rotation. Like we weren't actually due for a fog rotation yet. But they had to do an emergency one because like so many players were complaining how bad the last pool was
It
that they
was
had to
awful.
fix it. So like we got rid of a lot of the maps. Yeah.
Look,
um,
I used to have 80 plus games because I got like 7 accounts for FUG, and
that's
and
crazy.
and because of the previous rotation, it went downhill because I decided, okay, 5 game per account, so it dropped from like 80 plus to like 30 something, 20 something, and I'm like, now with the new rotation, I decided 2 of my account would go to like 10 because this rotation is much better, but I still don't like the rotation because there's 3 light bases map, and out of the 2 new light base, I think I only enjoy a bit more one of the 2, the one with 3 airport. But here's the thing, there's not enough money in that map, so even if you got 3 airport, you're too poor to fully benefit from the 3 airports. So even if the idea is great, it's so poorly executed. It makes me so sad. You know which map I'm talking about, right?
Is this the fog map?
Yeah, it's a fun map. It's a light base map with 3 airports.
I actually have no idea because I haven't looked at the rotation in a hot second. I
After
have
the stream,
to.
I will show you. I actually enjoy this map a lot, but I think the idea is poorly executed because base, like both player don't have enough money to fully benefit from all 3 airport, and this is really sad because I like the idea of having a light base map with 3 airport, but you just don't have the money. Because to have the money, it would mean, like, since it's FUG, it would mean you have a, let's say, 27 plus 2, 29. You would need like each player to have like roughly 29k a turn to make sure you can fully benefit from all 3 airport. But then Eagle would become so broken. But regardless, you have an idea, but you don't go far with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. I would imagine, like, from hearing about, like, the setup, I don't think you're meant to really make use of all 3 airports by, like, building a copter every turn from them. I think if, like, the income is, like, 20k, that makes sense to me. Because, like, then you use 2 airports, and then you have to make a strategic choice which airport you're not going to use.
Yeah.
And then you get 2 infantry. So, like, I can see that being, like, a strategic consideration. If it's like on the lower side though, like 17k income, 18k, I don't think it makes sense for there to be 3 airports because then like you're only using 1 airport anyway. So like you might as well just make it 2 airports because then it's like the same strategic consideration. 3 airports just might make air too strong, like it forces AA, and then you get into weird like AA first meta, which is weird. Counter like
that would
counter
be
like really fast.
crazy. That would be crazy. One map lets you do something else and like tank spam. One map.
I mean, you'll still get to answer the AA, but like AA first would be like kind of weird. Yeah.
Let's keep going with this.
All right. You load your mech into the transport like you said you would. Okay, you get a fast helicopter. Pretty decent. And then you put the mech on the mountain. I think again you're playing too scared with this transport. Like you can just be moving it here. I think. Would it reach? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It barely not reach. This is where the Sammy +1 move is relevant.
Yeah.
But like yeah, you should just be moving as far forward as you can with this mech. Anyway, like the mech's slow. It's not as if it's gonna outpace your army, right? Like that's not gonna happen. Um, uh, also like there's no point for you to be scared of being attacked here. The other thing is like if you put your mech here or here, right, or even here in this forest, it protects this infantry. So if like my recon ever went for this hit, I didn't because like again I'm too scared. But against like a more risky player who wants to do like attacks, then you can actually punish it. By
Yeah.
putting it here, you actually can't punish anything. This mech doesn't defend anything. It also doesn't give you vision of anything because it has 5 vision, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
Yeah.
Guess what has 2 vision? Infantry. Your infantry here and here have 2 vision, right?
Yeah.
So anything this mountain sees, these infantry see, right? So what is this doing? Right? That's that kind of thing.
Okay, that's good to know. So my hatred of mechs is justified. They are too slow.
Okay, yeah. So like what I was saying earlier about like why is this APC here? I think I realized it a turn later. Like when I'm doing the moves, I was oh okay, I can actually just do this, and then this APC didn't have to be here. Um, but it's not such a big deal. It would take the APC like I think 2 turns anyway to get to this mech, so it's fine. The other thing that might be interesting here is like I opened double artillery before tanks. Like double recon to double artillery is pretty strange. The reason I do this is because it's clear to me early on, like I want to exert threat on your HQ. The only way to exert threat on your HQ this early on is by having artillery. 2 artillery and a tank kill this B-boat almost always.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like why I went double artillery.
Even with
The
a
other thing
low
is like
roll, even with a low roll, you can destroy it.
yeah, exactly. Like with a low roll, I can destroy it. Other thing is like I have this mech anyway. That's gonna be my backup for this artillery, and make sure like it has some defense against like if a tank or recon hits the artillery, then the mech can counter hit, right? So like I'm not completely dead if that happens. Um, Also like artillery are slower because they have 5 move, right? Tanks and AA have 6. If I build the artillery first and then the tanks next, the tanks will arrive about the same time as the artillery will, right? Or like the tanks can reinforce faster anyway. So like if an artillery gets hit by a tank and a tank is behind it, the tank can counter hit. But if an artillery is out of range and your forward tank gets hit, you can't counter hit, right? The artillery can't move and shoot unless you're eagle. So that's why like artillery first is strong or like better. If number 1 you're sure there's no aggression coming your way, and I can be fairly sure because of the recon. I don't see a tank yet. The other thing is if you know you're gonna play in one area of the map and you can force a fight there, right? Why do I say you can force a fight? The typical counter to like artillery spam is just move your tanks elsewhere and kill stuff there, right? That's the easiest way to answer them when you don't have enough vehicles to fight them off yet. The problem is, if you have artillery pointed at their HQ, threatening to capture it, they can't go elsewhere without losing the game, right? So it forces the fight. It forces them to fight into your artillery, which gets value, right? So like the only way you lose in that scenario is if they somehow wall break you and kill your army, in which case you would have lost anyway, right? But if they don't manage to do that, then you're really efficient because like artillery do insane damage. Go for B-Copter here first. Actually, I don't know why I went B-Copter here first. I think this is just like my usual build. Like if I see 12k income, I'll go Copter triple in for the unit count. Although I knew I was facing you, so I was expecting like there's probably an AA out at this point, right? Because like you always build a really fast AA. So like if I was playing specifically against you and trying to like maximize my play against you, I probably would never build a Copter again and just build pure tanks.
That's funny because of what you just said. Um, in my most recent games, like in like the last few games, I decided I would delay much more my anti-air because people know me. So I delay my anti-air. I still got one at some point, but I think I delay it. I don't know if I delayed it in our game. Now I got 13k, so I think I will go like anti-air recon infantry. That's the kind of build I do. But I try to delay a bit more my anti-air now because I know people know me.
Yeah, exactly right. Like I think delaying your A is just gonna be like better for you in the long run. I think you'll win more games doing it. Like, or it will make your games feel a bit smoother. Cause like again, like being down one tank hit like from a copter is not the worst thing in the world. Um, like I had a game recently against Tortured where you actually get like a completely free hit on my tank, and then the game went on to day 27 and we just completely stalled each other out. Like there was a lot of fighting. Like this ended last night. There was a lot of fighting, but no one could get any advantage. So like losing one tank hit is honestly like not the worst thing. You can recover from it.
Dude,
But if your AA gets hit, that really.
one of my struggling grinding game. We are at day 46. It's Drake
Oh
versus
god.
Rachel. My opponent is in the, I think he's like 1050 something. At some point, he asked me for a draw, and I really considered the draw, but then I was like, we are really close in unit count because I'm really good at guessing unit count. So I was like,
Mhm.
maybe I will push myself a bit further to get better, you know? And at some point, he decided he would take out the option to do a draw. So we are still in
Mhm.
going 47 days in light base, and you know my feeling toward light base. Even if it's struggling grinding, my favorite light base, I don't like light base. And this game is just nuts.
I think I would have just taken the draw to be honest. Like if the game's gone on that long without clear advantage, like I think like I just don't want to play the game anymore.
I keep playing
A
because the
couple
guy
of
is good. If that was a guy in my realm, like 900 or 800, I would accept that draw. But that guy is a 1000 plus thing. So I was like, oh, if I beat him.
yeah. So if you might win, so like you're gonna go for it. It makes sense. I've done that a couple of times before. Like because like they seem so much stronger. Like I'm gonna push my luck and maybe I win, right? And like that's gonna feel really good. A couple of things about your turn. So first of all, your tank moves away from this area too early. The reason I say that is because you haven't finished capturing this. You haven't secured this city, right? If you know this map, you probably want to secure this city. So your tank still needs to be there, right? To like in order to like ensure these things go smoothly. Otherwise, recon and infantry can like make that hurt. Even without the recon, like just pure inf, right? If it's just an infantry versus infantry fight, I will win because I'm Sammy. Even if you're Lash, like you need to sit on terrain. And I can take the terrain pretty easily from you because I have 140 attack, 150 with the tower. So I will always 2-hit KO you, right? No matter what terrain you sit on. It's always a 2-hit KO. And then if I park an infantry on that terrain, then you instantly lose the fight because like you can't push me off the city. And I can push you out, right? So like you need vehicles here in order to like make sure these captures go smoothly. The other thing is like you should never park your infantry next to a city that's empty, especially when it's this stage of the game where a recon can just sit on that city, hit your infantry, right? And then it's kind of fine because like even if the tank counter hits, the recon probably doesn't die. Like you need 2 tanks to kill it or a tank recon, right? So it can be kind of worth it from that perspective. Um, Also like if you commit those vehicles, then the recon knows where your vehicles are, and I can potentially get counterplay on somewhere else in the map because I know you have vehicles in one area, you don't have vehicles here, right? So that's why you shouldn't park next to a city. Like it just makes it so much more valuable when I do a harassment capture. Same thing goes for these 2 cities. I mean, you shouldn't be parking your infantry next to this city because, like, again, I can first hit you from this city with the plus 30 defense with an infantry, and that will really hurt, right? If the question is like you want to maintain vision over the city, you can do it from 1 tile away because the infantry has 2 vision, so it doesn't have to be putting itself at risk. The only time you want to be moving like right next to the city is when you're 100% sure that there's no way you can counter hit, so like it's just more tempo because you're moving further forward. But at this stage of the game, there's no way you can say for sure that there's nothing that can hit this infantry, right? So those are the reasons why you shouldn't generally do this in the mid game.
That's funny because each time I'm
Like,
against
I can't
Kindle,
count the number of times I've won, like as Kindle, for example, or as Lash in a map where my opponent just parks an infantry next to like a city, and then my
yeah,
recon just hits it, right? And it's like 1 HP,
yeah,
and then their
that's
capture phase is just ruined, right? Like they just can't recover from that sometimes, because
That's
like I will be
exactly
up.
why when I'm against Kindle and Lash, I stay away from building. And this is funny because in my ILO, I'm kinda shocked. A lot of players go for Lash, but yet they don't care and they go park themselves right beside buildings. And just because of that, I win because they keep
Yeah,
doing it. They go across a forest, they cross a city, and they're like, let's chill there. I just go there and slap their unit around.
yeah, exactly, right? Like I think a lot of it is a question that they don't really understand. Like certain vehicle timings, they don't understand. Like if they look at their half of the map and compare it to like their opponent's invisible half, that's roughly how far forward their opponent will be. So like the moment they can threaten the opponent's units, by inverse they can threaten yours, right? Like that's one way to think about it. Like it sounds simple, but a lot of players don't think about that, right? So like I think if a lot of players realize like, oh, they might have vehicles here, then they'll quickly realize that I probably shouldn't park next to a city in case they first strike me from a city, right? Like even tank on tank is fairly scary, right? Especially if you're on a road or plane, and you give up a first strike, and their first strike is on a city. That's devastating. Like that's like a 9-5 split or something. It's really really bad, right? Um, Okay, you build a second recon, which is fine. You're fighting Sammy, you do want recons, so we can answer her infantry. Artillery, I'm not so sure about. I think maybe okay.
I
I think you
realized
could have
this
used
map was
next
some kind
one.
of HQ rush, and I was
Mhm.
like, it's Sammy, you will probably win the HQ rush, so at some point I need my own artillery so I can pressure your HQ as well.
I actually wouldn't think about it that way. Generally what I do if I'm being HQ rush is I defend. I actually wouldn't counter HQ rush, especially against Sammy, because that's the thing, right? Like, if you try to play me in that field where we're both trying to rush down each other's HQ, I have the advantage for sure. Because I capture better, I can join cap better, I have victory march. All of those things make my threat stronger, right? Your threat is you have your prime tactics thing, which is kind of scary, but it takes longer to get to compared to like my day-to-day I capture things fast thing, right? If I don't play for victory march, then this is hard for you. Um, the other thing is like you can fairly safely deny against Sammy, I think, even if unless like they have victory march, but that's a really long power. It's 8 bars. It's not easy to get it, right? So what I would be doing is the entire time that Sammy's trying to siege my HQ, I'd be defending until we get to like large tank states. Um, so lots of tanks, lots of copters, lots of vehicles, and then try to force a fight then with the purpose of reducing all their infantry and all their vehicles, and you win that fight rather than like trying to go for the HQ push. That's personally what I do. So I go for this capture here because like I have artillery backup coming. I also have the mech coming. I was surprised by this though. Like I didn't expect you to have an infantry here, and then I saw the teacup and I was like, oh, okay, this explains a lot about what I'm seeing now. So I have the two artillery parked together in a nice little death ball. The mech is supporting both the artillery and the recon, and this artillery is also supporting this recon. So like it's just a very compact formation that makes sure I can respond to like any tank threats you might have. Also it protects my captures, which is good. And then I see at this point like, oh, you don't have this city yet, right? So like I thought combined with like this T-copter opening here, I already knew at this point like, oh, he is down income for sure compared to me. If I can take this city away from him, that would be really good long term. Because like I will have plus 2k income after the capture phase is done. 2k because I took one city that's yours, That's +1 to me, -1 for you. So it's a 2k difference, even though it's
Yeah.
just +1k. And then I just take that attack because I was thinking like, okay, it's on a city, right? So I will probably survive, and then if I force a tank this way, then it's not responding to this, and this threat is stronger. Okay, so you go for a couple of attacks, and then you join your infantry. I wouldn't do that, honestly.
I know.
Um,
I don't know why I did that. I know it's bad. Unit count is essential, and when you join, you lower your unit count. So yeah,
yeah,
it's really bad. And now at that point, I'm like, let's try to pressure one of his building because I know he got the income lead probably because of that Raycon, because I don't know how to use transport because of a lot of reasons.
yeah. I think this was a good play. Recognizing like my army's not in position to defend, so like you can
Yeah.
punish this. Also because like you don't have threat here, like you're trying to create counter threat here.
And even if you
I
attack
consider like
me, even if you're Sammy and you got higher firepower, my counterattack will be really strong because I'm lash on the building. I'm like Grim, but without that stupid defense weakness. So my counterattack will still be very strong, and I think on my next turn I will be able to kill your infantry. But there I'm not quite sure. We will see. We will see.
yeah, I considered for a long time if I wanted to go for this hit, but when I saw like you had all these infantry, like I just thought probably it's not good. Like at the end of the day, like if I lose this city, it's fine if I get this city. We're still even on income.
Yeah.
Delaying this doesn't really do that much for me. Like eventually I'll take it back anyway if I win this fight. So like winning this fight is a bigger priority to me than keeping this city in this state.
Yeah.
The other thing is I saw this infantry here, which is what made me stop, because like this infantry will counter hit and my infantry will die. If it was like pure 1v1, potentially I can win, I think. Because like I have 150 attack. Yes, you are lash on the city. So like I think we go even, but if your infantry is down to like 1 HP, 2 HP, you're not getting the city anytime soon anyway, so it's
Yeah.
fine, right? Like the infantry does its job. But with a reinforcing infantry, you will kill my infantry, and then this will capture a turn later anyway. So like is losing an infantry worth it to deny like 1k worth of income, right? Because like I denied for like one turn, probably not, right? So that's why I decided I'm gonna go for this fight instead. I'm gonna win this fight and take the city later.
Yeah.
And then I start playing really aggressively on this right side because like I was like thinking, okay, I don't think he has any vehicles here. Maybe I'm wrong. You have a copter, right? I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play here and let's see what happens. Like maybe I get some damage off and it distracts him. Then
Poor
I get like that
Raycon. That Raycon
hit
was
on your,
meant for greater things.
and then we just go for like a bunch of attacks against your infantry. Like I'm just taking all the hits I see, except for like the mech. I think the mech stays back. And then yeah, I wall with my APC so that this recon doesn't get hit by a mech because like I realized, oh, he has a mech there. That explains so much. Oh, I actually do use my mech to hit your infantry. I don't want to say it's a mistake. I think like it's kind of forced because like I don't have the infantry to like really wall, and I need to complete my wall. And if I'm gonna wall, I might as well hit your infantry so you can't hit my mech back, right? So yeah, I'm not sure it's a mistake. But I think like I would have done the turn differently if I knew how everything would look like in the end. I might have done a few things differently, but it is what it is. It's not so bad. Also, like this nice like checkerboard formation is aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
Your T-Coupler goes back for more infantry, correct. You finish the capture, correct.
Oh.
Really juicy first strike with that mech on a property against my infantry. And then you hit my APC. I potentially would have considered using this infantry to hit the APC. Just so like you deal more damage. And anyway, since you're already committing to this fight with so much stuff, you might as well commit more. Doesn't make sense to commit half your army, let it die, and then commit the other half later.
Okay.
You either want to like commit everything or commit nothing. That's kind of like how you want to think about these fights.
Everything or nothing.
And then you're moving out to tanks and artillery. your tank wisely stays back and doesn't like go YOLO into my artillery quite yet. And then you finally build an anti-air, but it's on the wrong side of the map.
I was kinda scared of your army. I didn't know what you had. So I was like, I will not attack. I will wait until I can see what I can do. And we will see how it goes. But maybe I was a bit too scared. I don't know.
I think like you played this correctly actually. Like I wouldn't attack in your position, because like again, like you know I have artillery, right? Like you
Yeah,
can see that pretty clearly.
yeah,
You know like there is at least two at this point. Like you saw one get shot down. Actually, you know there's two because you have the recon, right? You
yeah,
know this one, and then you know this one because it killed your recon. And then so you know like you also see like there's a bunch of infantry. Compared to like your army, it's still kind of like not congregated together, right? So like I think it's correct not to fight this turn because like it just looks really tough for you to fight into right now.
yeah,
You have to give up these cap, but then again you were never gonna deny them long term. Same reason why I was never gonna deny these long term. It's just too difficult to deny on that side of the map. And this is like I think the hidden strength of the APC opening on this map, and why I really like doing it. Right, the only reason that my army can congregate like this early in the game is because my tanks do not have to be making sure like this capture gets done, these captures get done, these captures get done. My tanks don't need to be like too worried about that, right? Because I decided early on to play like fairly safely here. I do like end up going for like an opportunistic capture here, but that wasn't my plan at the beginning, right? My plan was like I'm gonna stay here and see what happens, right? And if I see an opportunity, I'll go for it. If I don't, it's fine. Like this is fine for me, because I decided to commit to that early on, and because like most people would be too scared to like eat recons or tanks past this range because it looks scary. Because of like reinforcement range as well as because of like the terrain. This can be safe with just infantry and recons, and like maybe just infantry sometimes. This is completely safe, right? So, and then the other thing is like the APC can make sure infantry and mechs are ferrying this front really fast, and because like I went artillery first, they're now in position. At the same time, tanks, AA, copters are all arriving. So like you can see everything that I've been doing up till this stage of the game has been coordinated like putting me in a game state that looks like this, where my whole army is here, and your army isn't here yet because again, like on the flip side for you, right? Because you didn't go for a transport opening, you never got these captures as fast as you should have, meaning your tank or a vehicle has to stay here defending them longer, which means you are one vehicle down defending this area, right? So that's all the things like now coming together to like make this attack really scary, and why it's why this can kind of work, right? The reason kind of work is because technically I'm fighting near your bases. It should be like a good reinforcement range for you. Like this mountain line here, the terrain is hard to crack, right? This forest line here is not easy for me to push you out of, right? Like even with artillery, like I need to get vision somehow before I can shoot your artillery here. You can also park artillery here. Like there's a lot of defensive options available to you that make it hard to crack. So I need some kind of vehicle advantage to make this attack work, or it's probably gonna fail.
yeah,
And that vehicle advantage comes from you not doing a transport opening,
yeah,
with the recon being able to force a vehicle out here, with the recon and infantry denying your captures, making it really hard for you to equalize on income, basically stressing you out. Like you can think of it that way. Like I'm playing a kind of mind game, we can say, where I'm making you sure you're focused here a little bit, so you're not fully focused here,
yeah.
splitting your attention, right? It's not like completely like game winning or anything because it's not live play, so you can afford it. You can take as many days as you want to like think about things, but if you play really fast, like it will stress you out and like you might make a mistake somehow because of that.
I
So like it's
play
all
really
those things
fast. I I don't take time. I just move on, do my stuff. Sometimes I have a plan and I remember it. Other time I have a plan and forget about it.
And then I go for another 2-hit kill on this infantry. So like at this point, I was thinking your T-Copter is down here. They probably don't have that much infantry here. If I
Yeah.
deny this capture again, I don't know when you're gonna be able to take it, but it's probably not soon. So we're gonna go for that and trade one infantry for an infantry. But I deny the city for longer, which makes this a good play.
That's still funny because despite my mistake, I'm not too far behind you. War crime, war crime,
Yeah.
base skipping.
So yeah, so at this stage, I saw that you had a copter. I wanted the AA to respond to it immediately. I knew I had to do that. And I also knew I wanted another tank. Another artillery doesn't do anything for me here. So, also, like, because, like, the APC is not in position yet to get another infantry forward, this base having an infantry or not having an infantry is not relevant in, like, the immediate term, right? In, like, the next 3-4 turns, it's not relevant. And the next 3-4 turns is what I'm playing for because I want to end the game fast by taking your HQ, or at least putting so much pressure that I win some kind of material or economic advantage from that,
Yeah.
right? So that's my immediate, like, I'm playing for tempo rather than playing for unit count. That's why, like, I do that. That's what justifies this war crime.
But you can't buy, so we cannot criticize too much your war crimes.
Okay, this is interesting. You actually put 2 tanks in range of my artillery to kill 1 tank.
I
um,
didn't know you had 2 artillery. I thought you only had 1.
yeah, you probably like didn't watch replay or like you forgot like the
I
recon died,
never
right?
watch replays because, as I said, even if I don't have my full capacity game, I still have like right now I have like 30 plus game I think. I
Mhm.
have 40 game, 40 game, yeah.
Right.
So I don't
Yeah,
take the
so
time to, to take a look at the replays.
I mean, okay, so like you know like my artillery was here because like the recon died. You know that it doesn't move because it keeps shooting something, and like
Yeah,
you also know there was another artillery here from like your vision, right? So like from those things, I think you can pretty much get the context like there's 2 artillery. Also like because of how the things are positioned, like there's units like wall like this is a pretty good indication there's artillery. So that's all of the things like I would have looked at, right? Like even without watching the replay, that's how I would have known there's 2 artillery here. Even if there isn't though, having just 2 tanks is not enough backup. Like you don't have enough backup to like make this attack worth it because like yes you kill 1 tank but you lose another tank in the process. And all your other vehicles are just so far away, like it's not gonna reinforce in time. Also like building a rocket is is not good in this scenario.
I'm Lash,
Um,
and she has terrain tactics and
you don't have
rockets.
terrain tactics. You don't have terrain tactics this turn is a problem, right? And even if you do, you don't really want to use terrain tactics. You want to use prime tactics. That's usually what you want to do. So,
When you got a
like,
rocket launcher, you don't care. You use terrain tactics.
we just start killing all your things. Like, when I saw this turn, I was like really happy. Like, I thought, okay, I'm definitely gonna win this fight now. It's just a question of like how long it's gonna take me to fully kill your army here. But like, there's no way you have anything to contest this army now. And then knowing that, like I've won this side, I can just pull back here because like it doesn't matter if I hold that side or not. And then here, I think you do a very big mistake. You commit all your infantry to attacking mine without any vehicle support, and like knowing like how big my army is here. I don't think you should have gone for that attack, especially like when Sammy has her COP up, because with COP, all my things will kill all your infantry, and then you have no army defending your HQ, right? Like, if I go for interrupts, you have no way to like cost effectively deny it.
Yeah.
Um, you have no army, so like my infantry will wall your vehicles away and zone you out. Like, there's no way for you to keep fighting in this area. It puts you on a really big timer, right?
That's
And
also
like,
why
yes,
I
you're going
bought
for
that rocket. That was like,
yeah.
my days are numbered. Let's try to get that HQ.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you're thinking like, okay, I'm gonna defend my HQ with a rocket, that makes sense. But you need infantry to defend that rocket, right? That's the thing. So like, I would have pulled the infantry back and brought the rocket like here. Yeah, like from this city, you can deny this HQ capture. It's still like losing. Like I know the response to this because like I'll realize you have a rocket after 1 turn, but that's like how you defend your rocket, right? Because like if all this infantry die and you have a rocket here, my tank and copter just dives your rocket, and then I take your HQ anyway. Right? It doesn't do anything. Like you need infantry to like defend your rocket. Um, this attack though justifies you rushing my HQ because at this point in the game, you have no other out, right? Like that's your only way you don't lose this game instantly is by trying to capture my HQ somehow. Although I have a lot of tempo on you because like you just let all your infantry die. Um, the only reason why this works is because I have basically nothing on this side of the map. So like like nothing is defending my HQ right now, which makes your attack easy. Like that's why you can position this aggressively.
That's also why I was like, he has nothing there. Let's try this out.
I mean, you have to go for it, right? Because like after the rocket build and double RT build and like losing 2 tanks, if you don't go for it this turn, you lose anyway. Like if you keep fighting here, you just lose. You have no other option now. So like that's what makes this a play. But generally, I wouldn't commit to that kind of plan as early as you did in this game, which was like 4 turns ago, right? But in this board state, like I think you are justified. This rocket going north though is not so good. It should definitely be here, because like otherwise, how do you defend this HQ from here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Okay, so if you park your rocket here, it still does protect the HQ, I guess, which is fine. It's just like you'd rather be sitting on the city in general.
Daring
Also, like from
tactics. Daring tactics.
okay, you build more artillery, which you don't need. At this point, you need tanks, you need copters. You need anything really fast so that you can get into this area fast. Artillery isn't fast enough. Also, artillery doesn't really slow anything down, right? Because like you built it here, the artillery should be here if it's to slow down this attack. And then here, I think I just murder all your infantry. Fairly sure. Yeah. We use COP to just murder all of your infantry. And all my infantry are still super healthy because like I use my tanks first to like get the hits. And then the infantry come in to finish off.
And then people think the only thing Sammy has is her victory march. But you see people, you see kantbei use double time. You see people, he proved me right.
Yeah, Sammy double time is like really strong as a power, right? It's one of the scariest things in the game, a really early double time. If all your infantry die, then Sammy has a win condition, right? Which is Sammy has an easy win condition, which is I have more infantry, therefore you can't fight me. It's that kind of thing that is strong for her.
Thank you. Thank you. You know why? In my ILO, you have no idea how many people rely on Victory March. Nobody used double time, and that makes me so sad. But then I hear you saying double time is good. That makes me feel better.
So like at this point, I actually didn't think you had that much of a threat on my HQ. I thought you only had 1 artillery. I was like, he's never gonna kill it in time, right? I'm completely fine. I win from this turn, surely, right? But actually I had like a stronger winning turn. If I just park a tank here, I win. Or yeah, if I just wall for this HQ, I win, right? And I can wall it pretty easily. Right? If I didn't go for the mech hit and then go for this infantry hit, I can wall this pretty easily, and you don't have enough units to like kill the defenders and then get a hit on my HQ with the AA. So this was a mistake. This could have potentially cost me the game. And like I think you had a winning position here, except you moved your tank here. And this is really, these details are really important. It's like this game came down to the wire as a result of like us both throwing away a guaranteed HQ cap.
Yeah,
But
and
you
that's what you told
you.
me once we were done. And I was,
Yeah.
I agreed, and I was so sad. I was like, so close. I was so close. I was about to beat kantbei, but I messed up at the end.
Yeah, so like because this tank, you let it get to like down to like 5 HP, it can now no longer wall effectively. So like when you go for your HQ play, and we're gonna see this really soon. So yeah, you deny the capture, go for the HQ cap. And at this point I was like, oh no. The only thing I can do, like my only out in this scenario, is I hit this infantry with my AA. Nothing else will do 1 damage to it on Prime Tactics turn. So I have to find a way to like, get this AA to like kill your to hit your HQ in. That's my only out. And like this was annoying because like I thought I was gonna win already, but it doesn't hurt me too much because I have a lot of infantry again. So like as long as I don't lose to like my HQ cap, I win. So that was my win condition now. MD tank build is good, maybe a bit too slow, but I think it's fine, right? Like you're trying to like delay me as long as possible. Strongest possible unit is MD. And here's where the mistake comes into play, right? Because like this 5 HP tank is on a road and it's at 5 HP because you gave me a first hit, this tank can now kill it, right? Which clears the way for me to... Oh yeah, I also use double time. So like I do that to guarantee the kill, I think. I didn't fully calculate this with damage calculator, but I knew like I needed every piece of firepower boost I can get in order to like deny this capture. Because like that's the one way I lose. There's no point holding it, right, for victory march. I'm never gonna get the victory march at this point. The game's gonna end in 2-3 turns, right? It's like I might as well get the firepower boost now where it matters, and hopefully it's enough to like delay the capture. So we move forward with everything this turn. Just trying to like get this capture to work, and then we manage thankfully to like stop your HQ capture.
What damage!
I also just
What damage! What damage!
Yeah, I just wall for like my HQ and also like against your HQ. So like now I have enough tanks here to like make sure this dies for sure next turn. And like I have enough stuff here that you can't kill everything or like injure enough stuff to make this HQ cap viable. You don't have enough units anymore, right? On this side of the map, maybe you can deny like my HQ capture for a while, like with the rocket and like the tanks. It's kind of hard for me to engage. But definitely like I stopped this, and because like I know I'm up unit count, I'm up income, I'm up unit value, it's fine like if we trade off like this. As long as I stop this, I win the game long term. And if you don't stop this, I win it immediately, right? So like this is the only fight that starts to matter, which is why I shifted so many tanks away from this and like just left enough here so that it's annoying for you to try and stop this capture.
Yeah.
And then I think you resigned at this point, which is understandable. Like I think at that point, like
I lost.
I don't think you have a way to stop my cap, and I have a way to stop yours.
My only attempt, my closest moment to beat you, fell apart
Yeah.
when my tank was damaged.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like that's a play that lost you the game basically. Like if you didn't do that, like you just win this game. And like so people can see like how dynamic this map is. It can really be volatile. Like even if you're losing everything else, you can potentially win by HQ cap later down the line because of like how exposed the HQ is, which is what makes the B boat necessary. Without the B boat, like I think you just APC rush the HQ every game, and it's stupid. So yeah, because of this, like generally speaking, if I'm not sure I will win the HQ race like this, I will play to defend my HQ and stall the game out. So like in tier 1, like I'll play Hawk. I recently played a game like Hawk versus Sturm here. In tier 2, I will probably play like Eagle or Olaf rather than Max, because Max doesn't have RT, so he has less threats. Tier 3, like I still go for Sammy because like her capture game's insane. Tier 4, I don't think there's a tier 4, but if there was, I would probably play Hadder. Maybe Cole. Hadder or Cole, for sure.
Why is there no tier 4?
So it's basically like a weird thing with the coding of the site where every global league map only has 3 tiers available, so they have to pick one tier to kill. So like if they have tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, then tier 4 gets cut.
Oh.
So, like they just pick the worst tier for that map and remove it. It's a coding issue.
Now we could add a extra segment on this stream, which is the trash maps of this current rotation, or I should say, the maybe trash maps. I am wondering, I want your take on the current rotation we got right now. Even if it's emergency, let's have some honest talk with like a pro player. I think it's map and setting.
Yeah, so Global League and then Fog of War. Okay. Normandy, fairly good map. It's much better than 1 versus 1 Marn or 1 versus 1 ISIS, which was from like 2 rotations ago.
Really? Why?
Yeah.
We will pull up the
Uh,
map in case some people don't know.
so double transport makes it really funny to me. Like I really like double boat maps because like I like transports. Um, Recon is pretty strong here. Like day 3 recon is usually what you do to like threaten the com tower, threaten the this city here, potentially threaten this city here. Recon is almost always going to be the play first vehicle, but it has an answer which is like I think like day 2 mech or something, day 3 mech, something like that. Basically, like the mech can ensure these two things get captured. This one you might not get, but then you can just mirror. And then after like the recon shenanigans are over with, it plays like a normal Widge map, right? So Widge is the map maker in Fog. All the maps with like 1 versus 1 in them are made by Widge, right? He's a really strong Chinese Fog player. So he revolutionized Fog gameplay actually because he's the first one who made competitive Fog maps. Like Stalingrad, Verdun, all of those are like his legacy, and they're still like really good to this day, even though they're like I think 4 years old at this point, 5 years old. They were like one of the first global league fog maps ever.
Now, I am
So
wondering, do you think if we would replace that black boat with a lander, do you think this would improve the map? I do think so, but what's your take on it? Why a black boat there instead of a lander?
okay, so the black boat there is to like make sure there is a clear strong side, weak side. Um, the black boat basically makes it so you have an interesting strategic choice. Um, you will naturally have more infantry here because of the black boat, but you will have less vehicles because of the timing of the reinforcements. This lander will make sure you can get some infantry and some vehicles here faster, but you will have a lot less infantry compared to your opponent. So like it's a question of do you want to play on the side of the map where you have more infantry but less vehicles, or more vehicles but less infantry? And it's the same for your opponent, right? So like that creates some interesting strategic options. If you make this a lander, then you will almost always just play here, because like you can just like the reinforcement timing for your vehicles to this front is so fast, like you will always win this, right? So like with a lander here, this is always gonna be the part where you play. You will never play here. Vice versa for your opponent. Then the map gets cut in half and it stalls, right? And then it's not very dynamic.
But here's the
The
thing,
other
I
thing is
don't
like,
think it's dynamic because even with the lander, it's still kind of weak that side because even with the lander, it's kind of long to have like full reinforcement because it takes forever to go from here to there. So you rely on that lander to ferry unit.
okay, I get what you're saying. And yes, to a degree, that's correct. The thing is, like, the airport is also really close by. The airport is quite strong at reinforcing here. Having a tank every other turn in this area is really, really strong. And it's not as if you're not gonna reinforce units from this area to like here, right? Like your units don't have to be here to reinforce. Your units just have to be here to reinforce this area, right? So like this is about 3 turns away, right? Um, the aggressive counterpart to like being here is being here and pressuring here, right? Like this is the 2 areas of the map where you can put your army. Here if you're playing against your enemy's HQ, here if defending your own. Yeah, I think Lander would just make sure every game you play on this part of the map. Like what reason would you have to like attack into your opponent's HQ if they have a Lander? Um, Also because like you can do really weird gimmick plays, like you can go really fast Neo tank, right, and drop it here. You can go Mega tank, right? You can go artillery rockets, which might have like interesting dynamics to them. I'm not really sure. I haven't fully theory crafted like what would happen in that scenario, but in general, I would say like B boat is better. Um, or like the early game, and mid game. Late game, you can just get your own lander anyway, and that creates like interesting late mid game, I would say, options with buying. Like, do you want to reinforce faster now, like build more vehicles now to reinforce, or do you want a lander? So you're down tempo, but you reinforce this area way faster in the future. So like, there's that consideration to make. I have tried like lander once. It didn't work out well, but also like I played that game really poorly.
That's very good to know. I like your insight. So, thank you again for coming here. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end?
I thought we were gonna talk about the rest of the maps.
Oh, okay. That could be good. Because I was
Okay.
seeing the. Oh, yeah, that one is awful. What's your take? What's your
Um,
take on it?
it's okay, but I think artillery is really strong here because like you play on the sides, you wall this area with like 3 infantry and your black boat, and then you park artillery behind it. It's hard to push out. It plays weirdly to me though, but because like it's base light, this is still okay because like infantry are hard to replace. Unit count is low, so like artillery isn't that crushing. It's a kind of thing where like the terrain makes artillery good, but the base count makes artillery bad, and then it evens out kind of thing. You definitely like play one corner of the map and try to win there. Um, the recons I think are probably kind of pointless. I never really saw the point of these two recons other than to like force out a fast copter to kill it or something. I don't really get why they're there. They don't really do anything in my opinion.
And I
But
never
yeah,
go kill it because I don't see the point.
I kill it just because like I want charge usually, and like usually my copter doesn't have anything better to do.
Stalingrad is fun. I like it.
Yeah,
Assassin, we know
Stalingrad,
it. Birds on a
Assassins we
wire.
know.
Why
Birds
it's
on
still
Wire,
there?
horrible. Yeah, I don't know. Like this is actually like one of the maps I complained about a lot. Like
It's
it's horrible map, stalls out. Like this should not be a live play map at all.
it's so
It's horrible
awful.
map, completely stalls. Yeah, like Scholesy was way better than this one, and Scholesy got removed, so I don't understand why they kept this one. Don't mess up my tempo. We played on Dragons in the Dark.
We played
We've
them
covered
as well,
before.
but I
Yeah,
think I got tired of it. I just played it too much and I want something else.
yeah, makes sense. First step into fog. I don't know if you've ever seen this map.
Yeah, I played it and I like it. It was there when I started Global League, I think. Like the
Yeah.
first month or the second month I did Global League. I remember playing this a lot.
Yeah, this is a pretty good map. It's
I
a really
think
weird map too, cause like there are like okay, Widge when he started making fog maps, he had a bunch of like rules on like what would make a good competitive fog map. Like don't put too many forests, don't put too many mountains, make sure you can front switch. A lot of like key principles like that. And this is one of the most interesting maps because it breaks almost all of those rules, but it still plays really well as a fog map.
there's
It's
too
like it's
many
one of the
forests there. There's too many forests
yeah.
there. That's godly awful. That's the only thing I don't like about the map. I like the map in general, but that many forests there? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, the forests are like super annoying, which is why like building artillery to like park them in the forest here is like really strong, especially like if they don't counter artillery you. Um, in spite of that though, like for all its flaws, it still plays really well as a map, which is like, again, that's why I was saying like it's touted as one of the examples of like weird fog maps. It's precisely because of that, right? Like it breaks all of the rules that Widge stated about like fog maps, and it still plays decently, right? It gets into the global league enough times. People generally don't hate it, which is good. Fletcher Walker,
Awful.
not that new really, but yeah, it's not great. Its artillery is too strong. I think it stalls if both players play correctly. Haifong, 2 base map, but not terrible. Base light. Redemption World, have you ever seen?
I've seen it many times. I like it a lot, but I'm surprised because I don't remember seeing it this rotation. So I don't know why it's there, but I've played it many times. I like this map a lot. That's one of my favorite map in Double League.
Yeah, Redemption World's pretty good. There's nothing really to complain about it. Static,
It's hands down
kind of
my
like
favorite map of all.
yeah, this is an interesting map. I really like this one. It has a really strong APC opening where if you're, for example, the yellow player here, you build an APC here like day 5, I believe. I don't remember the exact timing, but when I play a game, I'll probably remember. And then
That's that's my
you
opening,
can win.
but it
Yeah,
gets
you can win
shut
like
down
4 or
really
5.
hard by the Recon opening.
I don't think Recon can actually shut it down if you play correctly. Because like the APC should be backed up by a fast tank, right? And like the tank will secure these captures. The recon can only pressure you in the center where you won't have any tank presence in the beginning. The moment you see that, you can shift your tank to like help secure this. But then maybe you have a hard time securing it because like infantry will arrive at the same time and then it'll be a fight in the center. So that's the only like way to like counter it. But yeah, like the APC will still get value on this area of the map for sure. Like I've never been punished by a recon in like my 30, 40 plus games on this map with an APC opening, and I open APC almost at every game. Oh, to Athos. This is what you were talking about earlier. With those two
Yeah,
airports, right?
the idea is great, but I think it's poorly executed. We don't have enough money.
Yeah, you're not meant to make use of all three. Like, the moment you capture this airport, you basically never use this one ever again, in my opinion. So like you only ever have two airports, and you have to capture this eventually, like mid-game, but you don't rush it. This map is kind of weird because I think it potentially can stall out like to like 40, 50 plus unit count if both players are like playing super defensively. The thing is like artillery here denies this city, so like if you get this city early on as the green player, you can lock it with artillery and then later you can lock it with rocket. Rocket is actually really good here in the mid game. Um, Air is super good here, like you spam copters like crazy. You get stealth, also really good. Another thing you do is like you can build tanks and play for center early on. You're not supposed to build artillery fast to break this seam. You're not supposed to build T-copter early to get these captures, from what I remember about the theory. There's apparently like some kind of punish to it, like, but I don't know how to do it. But I remember like that's supposed to be the wrong play. Like you should lose instantly if they know how to play against you. But yeah, I don't like it too much because like I don't get how to play the map really. But I
I
think
don't like light base in general, but it's still fun for a light base map because we got 3 airport.
yeah, and then vandalism, we know vandalism.
Yeah.
That's all the maps. None of them are too like all these maps are actually old maps that got put into rotation again.
I'm actually surprised Redemption World is back because I haven't seen it so far. I've seen so many Ada, so many Fretcher. Fretcher is so annoying. I cannot stand that map.
So what's probably happening there is because like the algorithm for matchmaking is set so that the maps you play the least have a higher probability. That's probably what's happening because you've played Redemption World and all these other maps before. It's giving you the maps you haven't played more. So like that would be like Fletcher.
So I'm
What
doomed.
else is there?
I
Yeah,
will never go
exactly.
back I because I hate these maps. Wow, why? Why me? Man, thank you very much for coming in. That was another great stream. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's pretty much it for me.
Man, thank you very much here again. People must like, comment, and subscribe. I wish you all a great day, and thank you again, kantbei. We will do more of these in the future for sure. Anytime you want, man, we do one.
Alright, sure thing.
Take care, man.